Welcome to Table Read Tuesday's interview with the writer. We have Marven Likness, whose screenplay we were fortunate enough to read, One in a Trillion. So welcome, Marvin. We're so happy to have you here. Uh, um, so that was awesome. And like we said at the reading, congratulations on completing the film. The screenplay. Soon, someday, completing the film. And
Someday.
we offer lots of, yes. Um, Lots of questions. Um, I'll first start off with when did you first come up with the idea? Where did the idea come from? And how did it take you to write? So, any of the order you want to answer that, however it flows together. Yeah.
Well, the idea came to me it was roughly the summer of 2019. I was basically doing some writing for myself to help myself deal with some issues that I was having. Just a short back history. In April of 2016, I was sitting down watching the TV with my wife on a Sunday night, and heard some crackling in my ear. Was really annoyed at the area. Thought I was just getting tired and grumpy after a long weekend. So I went to bed early, and I woke up the next morning and I had actually lost most of my hearing in this ear. It's actually, I got to hear about 90 decibels to hear out of this one. And my right ear went to about 55 decibels. Somewhere between, 55 decibels on the lower frequency range, and then as you get up into verbal, it quickly goes into the 90. So I don't actually hear everything that's going on, but this actually helps me balance my mind a little bit. But in writing for myself, I was blogging, I wasn't really releasing anything, and I thought it would be a really cool way to create a story by putting my experiences into a film that's a little bit more exciting than my life. And that's where this actually began. This whole series was the very first story and script that I wrote. Of course, I had to learn script writing. I've read many scripts. I was doing, as a part-time actor, I was doing lots of little bits here and there. So I've seen lots of scripts. I had no idea how to write a script or why.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn that over the fall of 2019. And I put my first script together as a short. And that one was actually 1 in 1,000, which you've noticed from the script that you read. I had that little line at the top, the 1 in 1,000. That was a mistake. I've removed it, but then I lost that file, and you know how things creep back in.
Definitely. On that note, I'll interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
The title "One in a Trillion." How does that apply to the movie? Who's the one in a trillion, or is it a different aspect?
Well, the idea is actually Lisa, who is on the ark. She has her hearing loss, and at the time, of course, humanity has expanded into our solar system to nearly 1 trillion people. And at the time, both her and her dad completely believe that she's the only one that's deaf out of this trillion people.
Okay.
And that's where the 1 in a trillion comes from. Of course, you know from the script that lots of other things happen.
Yeah, and there's a whole society and community of them.
Exactly.
Again, in case we have this separate from the reading, it should be connected. But in case it's separate, if anybody hasn't read the screenplay yet, since you can't watch the movie, you might want to watch that first before watching this interview, because we're going to talk about spoilers, and we don't want to spoil it for you, if any of that. All right, so that totally makes sense that if they feel that way. All right, cool. I told Angelina earlier, like as soon as I saw the title, I'm all, I like that title. uh, so that's cool. Now, and it's cool how you're like bringing in, like they say, write what you know, and you're writing about what you know in this fantastical world and environment, sci-fi. So, did you want to get back to how you were telling your story, or?
Oh, sure. I'll still try to be brief on a lot of it, but in creating the story and creating the scripts, I had a couple of film friends of mine take a look at the scripts even before they were in script form. It was more story form. I had photos in there. I had designs in there. It was pretty mixed up, but I got really good responses back. And
Awesome.
so I thought, well, I'd hone it into at least a short, and I ended up doing about a 30-page short, and kind of exhausted my friends uh, for input. And of course, you think a lot of your friends and stuff like that, you're going to have a biased opinion. So I checked out Film Freeway, and I went on to a couple of contests. Not many to start in January. And at that time, it was
January
actually
of what year?
January of 2020
Okay.
was the first time I entered a script. And it was actually called Sarah's Story at the time. Uh, but I entered that one. And by February, I was starting to win awards.
Awesome.
And I was actually surprised at some of the awards that were out there that I was winning. Um, some of the like, you know how it is, you would get an award or whatever, and you wonder if it's a token award
Mm,
or something along those lines. But I ended up getting into a couple of interviews because of it, and I thought that was pretty amazing.
that
That
is
they're taking their
fantastic.
time out of their day, setting up something like this to set up an award for a contest where I would take a look, and there might have been 500, they might have been 1,500 applicants for that one award. So I was like, okay, well, something's here. I don't know what it is yet.
Hmm.
And I wrote another script in that got finished in February of the same year, 2020. I did the same thing with a few more, kept getting awards back. And at that time, I was starting to wonder, well, is it because they're reading the headline of a deaf protagonist and maybe they're doing the heartstring awards and that kind of thing. So I ended up doing a short that had absolutely nothing to do with the deaf or deaf culture. It ended up to be a coming of age story,
Hmm.
and it started to win awards. And then I ended up getting 100% entries, which I
Wow.
thought was rather interesting. Uh, so it's just evolved from there. And
Congratulations on all of that. Those are some big accomplishments. That's yeah, good job.
I know I was really surprised to hit the red list when it was actually a sci-fi uh, monthly, right?
Hmm.
And I didn't. It was an award, and when you do the red list, you actually get a scoring on your script. And I didn't. Sorry, I didn't win that one, but I got into the top 15,
All right.
which for the red list is still pretty freaking amazing.
That is all amazing. And all right, so obviously you have some skill as acting, which helps you with your ability to write, which is fantastic, and it's being recognized, which is amazing. And I'm glad we were able to read it. But most of the times when people are reading your scripts, you've probably gotten some feedback, but you haven't been able to hear them read it. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, that's correct. Of course, when you get into a lot of the contests, I look for the ones that are feedback.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I also look for the ones that are inexpensive to enter because I'm not a very rich man to begin with. I will do the odd splurge here and there for something that I think is well valued.
Hmm.
Uh, but you can also read from some of the comments that you get back. It's like, okay, they read the title, or or they maybe read the first page, but they didn't go beyond that. And then you get into other contests. I'll throw out Pixels Garage are really good.
Okay.
Pixelsgarage.com. I've sent 3 into them so far, and you can tell that they've written the script because they practically give you a synopsis back of what your script is. You can definitely tell that they've actually read it, gone through it, and their comments are valid, right?
That's awesome. I hadn't heard of them before, so I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah. Script, showcase script and storyboard was also good out of LA. I ended up doing an interview with them as well.
Awesome. I haven't seen those yet. I'll have to check those out. Um, so what did it feel like hearing some of your words come to life on the as people read it in Table Read Tuesdays?
Quite amazing. The actual feature has only been in, I think, it's about 3 or 4 contests, and none of those had feedback with them.
Okay.
So I've only had feedbacks on my shorts so far. So to be able to put something that's out there that's that long, that in depth, and unfortunately hints onto so much more in the future, it was really well, after I watched the comments he had at the end, I'm sitting there and I'm saying they nailed that, and they nailed that, and they're bang on with this, and this is exactly what I was going for that. And of course the harsher comments too were not really all that harsh, and I get this from practically every time somebody looks at my scripts is spelling, grammar, and that's normal.
Yeah.
With this script, I have had nobody go through with a red pen, and I know there was offers there, and I might take them up on it. Because some of my shorts, I do have somebody that will do some editing for my shorts. But for the long one, that's to me, I should be paying for that service, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I just haven't been able to afford to pay for that service.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
We only can spend it one way. We have to be selective when it's the right time and who and stuff. So that
Exactly.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, awesome. Are there some things on that feedback that we didn't get right? Like, well, and even some of the names. Like, I know some were like, "Is this how we pronounce this? Is that how you heard the name in your head when you wrote it, or what?"
Well, I've strongly thought about changing it from one in a trillion to just Canvatas
Mm-hmm.
is the name, and that's the way I hear it. I've heard it a few times where differently when you were going through, and I'm like, no, I still like Canvatas, Uh, but no, most of them. I think
And it,
Kamal was pronounced a few different things,
okay,
but
yeah, a bud.
that
Was
actually
that the
Bud is yeah her
okay?
dad, yeah.
But was that the way we were supposed to say it? Or I'm not familiar if that
Yeah,
is a
Bud
common name.
is the
I don't know. Okay, cool.
yeah. Kamal is somebody actually that I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I took that name from, and I told her about it, and she's okay with that. So, but she's a very strong business type woman, and that's the way I saw that figure.
All
So,
right. That's great. Um, Before writing this, did you have any involve before you had that moment, did you have any involvement with the deaf community before that?
before that, I had no involvement with the deaf community.
Hmm.
I was also on a 30-year break from my acting,
Okay.
so that's kind of brought that back as well. Uh, yeah, I've always wanted to learn ASL, and it's hard to learn.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm learning slowly. I'm about 3 years into that.
It's interesting how something that may be viewed negatively also can lead to a lot of wonderful things. Like, again, you said you hadn't been acting for a long time and you never written before, but because that thing happened, now you're doing both. You know what I mean? It could
Yeah,
change your life in multiple ways. Uh,
yeah.
I had a question since you were talking about the headphones and the 50 decibels and the 90 decibels. Have you found any headphones that you're able to adjust um, the volume in each separately?
Uh, I could do that with this one.
Okay.
Basically, this one's in here basically just for balance. One thing being one-sided
Mm.
deafness and one-sided hearing is that I will feel a little bit off balance if I'm not having at least some noise coming in this ear. I don't know if that explains it at all.
No, no, I
Uh,
think it does. Equilibrium.
but I also have tinnitus, which is a
Mm.
ringing in the ears, and this one rings the most, and it'll actually stop ringing if I put an earplug or a device in there. It kind
Okay,
of helps to
interesting.
stop that ringing.
That's great. You have a way to stop it. Was there anything in particular that brought this on or that made
They
that
don't know.
trigger in the moment? Okay.
Yeah, they assume it was a virus. Uh, it's something to do with like chicken pox actually has once you've had chicken pox, you have what's called the herpes virus. Many different types of herpes virus, but this is basically it can be a degenerative uh, virus if it's mixed up in certain areas.
Hmm.
Same with shingles, right? It'll also cause shingles, but they're thinking either something along the lines of that, or a flu, or interruption to blood in the inner ear in that area.
All
So
right. Interesting. I guess back to the script. And if there's anything you don't want to mention or say yet, feel free to go ahead
you
and
betcha.
say that. Um, were some of your short films that you wrote, I know you wrote Sarah's story. Were there others that you wrote that made it into this feature? Or that was the first time you were telling those other stories were in the feature?
As I was writing and getting the stories together, at first I saw a a series going of like a TV series,
Hmm.
right? Basically half hour, maybe an hour TV series is what I was kind of viewing. And I was thinking to the prequel to that. I wrote basically it's the second act to the feature was going to be the prequel,
Okay.
right? So the whole stealing the ship from the government and escaping back in 3700, which is 300 years prior to the timeline,
Okay.
the general timeline, that was going to be a prequel. And I decided, like I had written a full feature on Sarah's story, and I read a full feature on the arc, but they could hold their own, but I couldn't quite show the entire uh, uh, story world by showing one or the other. So
So
I thought
is this the third feature you've written within this world?
it's the third feature, but it's also been the one that's been walked through the most, what I've worked on the most.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's
Okay,
a
so
little bit
yeah,
more finished than the other two.
so you wrote Sarah's story as a feature, then you wrote like the world on the arc as a feature, and you had the other idea of the rebellion as like a prequel to the one of those. Or
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
All right. What are your after the feedback and as you again you're growing with this story, you're growing with this world
Mhm.
and seeing how to tell it. As of right now, what are your future plans on and hopes on that you're willing to say uh, on it and with it?
I think I'm going to keep the feature generally in the same. I'm going to add a lot more action because that's one thing I did get from your feedback that I do want to place in there in certain areas. Uh, the reason why I probably did it the way I did, and this is in hindsight thinking, uh, is that a spec script is an application.
Hmm.
That's all it basically is an application to a producer to say, this is the kind of stuff I'm interested in. This is the storyline that I'm interested in. This is the writing that I can do, uh, and it can show somebody a glimpse into the story world, right? Uh, I think that still needs to be there. That the actual feature that may come out after getting hired and after talking to a producer or having a producer interested may change to maybe Sarah's story starting out, or the arc story starting out, or the rebellion starting out as a full feature, depending on what the director likes to take from my application. If that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, writing sample and see where they want to go. Uh, I mean, if they choose, if they have the mind to open and see it that way once they read it, and like, oh, we're going to separate these and break these out, if they can see it that way. And like
Yeah,
you said, you can name it Canvatas. Maybe I said it wrong again. I don't know, but
yeah,
one in a trillion. Like it can be like the title and
yeah,
the sub. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, that's exciting. Um, it's all exciting. Is there anything like any highlights of right or wrong things, or um, something you would like to explain more from the feedback?
Uh, I know there was a lot of little fixes in there that may not have got seen while you're writing, because I know there was a couple of questions on, like, people had gotten a little lost in some places for time and stuff like that. So I want to fix some of those issues. I do like the idea of doing 300 years in the past, or whatever, instead of actually naming dates. The reason why I name dates is because I mean, here we are, uh, 2020, and we're uh, just starting to plan Earth's first mission of a person beyond Earth's gravity. And
Yeah.
I'm considering Moon as still being in the Earth's gravity, right? So I'm thinking it might take us another 2,000 years to get to the point where we can actually leave the solar system as a human race, not as probes, but as a human race.
Yeah.
So
At least you're doing not making the mistake that, if you call it a mistake, that a lot of sci-fi movies do that we all laugh about because we watch a movie and go, "Oh, that happened 3 years ago, and we had
yeah,
flying cars. I must have missed them," and stuff. You're doing
yeah,
it far enough in the future.
I'm not living like the Jetsons yet. So
Yeah, exactly. Um, all right. How many drafts was this one in a trillion? If you work that way.
I would consider this about the fourth to fifth draft.
Okay.
The first one being Stara's story, the arc. I wouldn't consider the
Prequel.
prequel as a draft, and then probably two drafts of everything together, something along those lines.
Okay. Do you outline, or are you a pantser? Go with the seat of your pants.
I'm a pantser.
Okay.
I will outline afterwards, and I know that's not the way to do it. But the reason
If
why
it
I
works for
outline,
you, then it's the way to do it. You know what I mean? There's not
yeah,
one way, as long as the end result turns out good. then
yeah.
it's
Well, my words flow. Like I'll get an idea, and I'll write it down on a sheet of paper. I'll go to sleep, right? You know how it is. You let the mind rest, and all of a sudden it does wonderful things. And then I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll write for 2 or 3 hours before I go to work. And it's more of a spill my guts out, and then I'll look at it in a couple of days, and it's like, okay, let's organize these. And then when I get something that I really like, I will do an outline, but it's mainly so I can set up my 1 page document, my 2 page document, my uh, uh,
synopsis.
synopsis, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Now, is that you write those 3 hours when the when you wake up or when the inspiration sparks, or is it I write a couple hours every day before work? Is it
No, I when it inspires me,
okay?
that's when I do it. I do try uh, to do many pages per month. Like I do kind of have a set goal, and
Hmm.
it depends on the month. If it's going to be Christmas time, I might do it a little bit less. If it's
Of
going to
course.
be, you know what I mean. I'll kind of set up okay, this month I'm going to put in 50 pages this month. Something along those lines, and this is on top of basically I do a day job for blue collar, right?
Yep.
And I devote about 55 hours a week to that.
Yeah.
I do my acting on the side. I do my pool on Tuesdays. And as soon as that's done in April-ish, I'll give you a call and come do some more readings with you.
All right.
And I got my deaf darts team on Wednesdays, plus tournaments on the weekends sometimes. So
Okay.
it's a very full life.
And you have a wife as well, I think I heard, or not, or
I
family?
do,
Yeah.
and some months she complains that she never sees me.
You do sound very busy. And
Yeah,
so, and it's impressive. Like, uh, it's not easy to juggle so much, but to, and it's okay if people don't choose to do this, but to have the ambition to do what you need to during your day life and all these additional things, and then still pursue some ambitions and some dreams and put things out there. So, yeah, um, pat on the back. There you go for doing so much. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well. My acting keeps me fairly busy too. Keeps me busy for about 2 weekends a month. Like I did a commercial 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to be a math teacher here in about 2 weeks. And I supplied a bunch of props for a feature that's being shot in Edmonton yesterday. So there's things that pops up. You know how it is. It gets about this time of year, and it's going to start getting busier. Then
Hmm.
it'll lull down a little bit in about June or July. Then it'll go like crazy right up until the end of November, and then a little slack off during the winter too. So
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Um, we've been talking for a little while. Is there anything else that I should have asked or I didn't ask that you would like to talk about? Or
I don't know. Do you have any questions about any specific parts of the film, or should I drop a big bomb I've been thinking of, or
as long as you don't blow up the ark and kill the 1 trillion people, yeah, just drop it.
yeah, actually the arc itself doesn't have hardly anybody on it.
Yeah.
It's actually the Earth's solar system has most of the people. The arc was only set up to do the trip,
Yeah.
and then Earth was planning on sending civilizations later in a faster craft. So the arc itself started off with technically only thinking there's 8 people on the entire arc.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you have this playground that is the size of Earth's moon. It's basically like a artificial Dyson sphere, right? If you get a drift of that. And the idea of it is that you can take anywhere on Earth as it is now in 2020. You can make slight alterations, maybe a CGI, instead of having a sun, you have a little bit of a rod showing, like a faint rod, and you can shoot scenes on the arc in almost any part of the world.
Hmm.
And now you got 8 people that are going to run around and have fun on this arc. But because the deaf blind community that is hiding underground and escaping, they've hitched a ride. So there's hundreds of thousands of people hiding on this arc, but they take up such a small portion of the arc, right? It's unbelievable how small that you're thinking this
Yeah, a food court and
group
something the
is.
size of the moon. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and uh, you've a lot of the series will be going on about different hitchhikers that have got on.
Okay.
Different people that have hit on, and they're living out their lives on this arc because they escaped the rat race of 1 trillion people in the Earth's solar system,
I'm
right?
going to ask one of those annoying questions that
Sure.
people uh, get, and which is good to make sure it's covered when it's written or
Mhm.
whatever. But if they only planned for 8 people to be on there, is there enough food? Or I guess maybe you have some, live plants and parks and stuff on there. But I was gonna say, is there enough food to supply the hundred and something thousand people for that long of a trip?
Easily, because part of the plan is to once there's 2 planets that they're planning on terraforming and basically sending uh, uh, different sections of the ship to inherit and be landed on, and these different sections are full of cattle. They're full of growth. They're full
So
of
there's a whole ecosystem that's going to come
supplies.
and just put on the new planet.
Exactly. In
Gotcha.
fact, inside the ark itself, uh, they do have covered containers, but those containers can open so that you can actually have migrations of birds from one section to another, or animals that normally migrate, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. So you've definitely thought a lot about the world and all these stuff. Do you, do you have like a separate notebook or folder of how do you organize your ideas and stuff? Because
Yeah,
not
I
all of
have
that
a
was
spread.
conveyed. Not all that was conveyed in this script. Is it just in your
Yep.
head or is it written somewhere?
Some of it is in the series Bible that I handed out. That's more of a general of what's there, but a lot of it is in my head and a pile of notes beside my bed.
Yeah.
I haven't been adding too many contests because I haven't had too many new ones, but every once in a while I'll get an ad uh, because of a previous win.
Hmm.
They will sometimes say, okay, well, our sister contest over here really liked this story, so we're going to give you a discount of 60% or 80%. But every once in a while, I always get a free one, and I ended up doing one last month, and it is now in the Paris Film Awards. So they're saying that I've placed, and that we'll find out in the next couple of days where. But I thought that was pretty amazing, saying as that's probably the only one other than some cover fly listings that I put in probably the last, I want to say, 4 to 5 months.
Hmm. Well,
And
that's
that
great.
one, yeah, that one is actually just one of the episodes of this. It's called
Okay.
Secret Society.
I was wondering that how many episodes have been written, or I guess the concept for them or outline like each of those.
Yeah, I have concepts for about 10 or 11.
Hmm.
I have written about, I believe there's 5 that I've actually finished writing.
Wow, that's quite a bit. About how many pages are each of those?
Each one of those are set for about 40 pages, so you're
Hmm.
looking at about an hour show.
All right. Awesome. How many of those stories were integrated into this version of the feature?
Well, of course, the first and third acts were both started as a
There's,
short story,
yeah.
but none of the stories that are in the feature are actually planned, or are the ones I'm talking about that have already been written for the series.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. All right. Yeah, there were some questions, of course, like I know Heather wanted to know more about, the undersea colony, the people in the domes under the water. And she wants to, why is that in there? What's that mean? And stuff. Is that,
The reason why I have the underwater, and that's where the community is existing, is because
I
the
know partially to
idea,
hide because they're not allowed, you know what I mean? They're not welcome
exactly, the
society.
idea that they think Earth will settle on the land
Ah,
tropical planet first, and settle on that one before they'd even look at the water planet, other than maybe minerals or that kind of thing.
okay. Very cool. Yeah, that's great for you to mention winning some contests can lead to like getting into other contests and discounts and stuff for people who haven't been where you are yet. Um, do you have any advice for someone wanting to get into screenwriting or acting?
One is I highly promote scriptrevolution.com.
Hmm.
That one is run by a awesome guy in the UK named CJ Wally, and he's been doing some films with Shane Stanley, which look them up; they're pretty cool too. uh, but he has created the Script Revolution, and it's a way to, if you're curious about writing scripts, it's a great way to go over and take a look and see what people are writing, see what people are getting into, what kind of form factors they're using, what kind of advertising they're using, along those lines. and it's a great place to actually post your work as well. What you do is you can post your work. Somebody is interested in your synopsis and sees your synopsis, then they can request your script, and you can check them out before you decide to say, yeah, okay, this guy didn't just make an account and is looking for my script, and something along those lines. And yeah, sure, I'll let him read it, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to jump around a little bit. A couple of questions. Like, I know you're, now in part of the uh, deaf community and having to deal with that. Have you had many that were maybe born deaf or deaf from a younger age, like read your script yet? Have you had the opportunity or?
I have. I've had a few of them read the scripts. I don't know how to actually place this politely, and I mean, a lot of people are very knowledgeable in the deaf community, but a good amount of them, they avoid the English language, so they don't have the constant structure of an English language, so therefore they don't have the retention of an English language.
Hmm,
And I want to say this from a very nice point, because I have some pretty awesome friends
of
uh,
course.
that are deep into ASL, and ASL does not have the same grammar as English does.
True.
So for me to understand ASL, that's the hardest part for me, is to be able to organize it into a grammar that would be fluent and uh, into my friends. I mean, they're seeing me lip read, they're catching the odd word, they're seeing me stumble on signs. My spelling is horrible. My signs are getting better. Uh, uh, but I haven't had too much of a feedback from the deaf community on the
Mm,
scripts, other than they like the premise.
mhm.
And I mean, I get that mostly from my friends anyway. I like the premise, I like the ideas. It kind of sparks the imagination, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome.
I do have a lot of fans though, because they do see me in the commercials, and they do see me on shorts and features, and
You have a
so I
reel
guess
with.
I'm a little bit famous that way in the deaf community. But
All right, cool. I want to watch some more of those. I want to see your reel, uh, this all the different commercials, the different things. No,
well,
that's great.
my reel so far is actually probably a little out of date. I got to update it. It's probably about a year old. Uh, but yeah, it's getting it's put together by myself, so I don't have a professional reel, but it's enough of a reel that people can see some of the things that I do in it.
Gotcha. Have any of your screenplays and shorts and different things you've written been turned into uh, short films yet? Have they reached?
Not one.
Not yet. Okay.
I mean, I'm fairly new into
Oh yeah,
into the screenwriting. I mean, I'm only 2 years in, and I haven't quite wrapped my head around making it myself either yet.
yeah.
And I plan to do. I do have things that I'm working on to be able to do some of my shorts myself as well.
Hmm.
But of course, that takes funding, or it takes some really good friends.
Funding, friends, time, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
experience.
and I volunteer for many shorts and stuff like that. And I know lots of people that I could probably call up and say, I really want to kind of do this. Can you like show me how? Can you come and help me? Can you hold my hand through this, and bring some of your friends, and we'll just do a little short thing on a weekend or something like that, right?
Yeah, and it's great we have like so many free resources that are available to us now on YouTube and stuff to learn how to do everything. But it is nice to have a friend that can say, "Here, let me just show you this way," or "Oh, I see what you're doing," and feedback. So
Yeah.
that is great.
Like right now, I'm getting into doing some drone work. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
learning
saw
how
your
to
shop.
do that, doing reveals, doing that kind of thing, simple things that you can add to a film that would just makes it stand out a little bit more. So
Yeah,
I've kind of
raise
centered
the
my eyes
production
on that
value.
for a little bit.
Those great establishing
Exactly.
shots, and yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, I'm learning other aspects that may be financially viable for a drone business, like mapping and that
Hmm.
kind of thing. So
Yep.
right now, my attention's a little bit in that direction.
As we know right now, we're partially powered by Cypher Studios, and Cypher Studios' sister company is the Drone Cameraman, and they do a lot of that. They do stuff, for everything, for movies, for weddings, but they also do where they are doing mapping environments, and they have
Mhm.
different sensors that read things differently. It's really cool, and yeah,
Yeah, it's actually kind of neat when you're planning a spot, especially for a bigger feature. You're trying to plan a spot out, and it's like, well, maybe we'll see what it's like when we get there, other than one or two people looking and trying to describe it to the others. When you can take a drone out and in 5 minutes you can film the whole area to the point that somebody can get on the screen and actually swipe it back and forth and turn around and say, "Oh, I'm going to park the trailer there, and we're going to put the people over here, and we're going to put the food over there, and this is the direction we're going to shoot, and this is what we need to change for the background." And I can see it being a very valuable resource
oh, yeah,
for a film company.
absolutely. Yeah, and even some of that, like if you go and you scan it and you can turn it to a 3D model, and then you can
Mhm.
in 3D fly around and you can plan out the shots for previs and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
I can pop my drone up, and in roughly, excuse me, roughly about 30 seconds to a minute, I can have all the shots needed for a 3D swipe around.
that's awesome.
Take the in, I can actually upload it, and sometimes that 3D wraparound, like you can get uh, a quicker view on your phone and have it ready seconds after you do it. But in order to get a good quality one, you might have to wait anywhere from 4 hours to overnight to have it stitched together properly,
Yeah,
and then it's presentable to a customer.
gotcha. Yeah, we might not be living like the Jetsons yet, but the
Yeah,
technology we do have is pretty amazing. Like
it's
these are some
definitely
pretty,
coming along.
yeah. Um, all right, so you're getting into that. You're doing so much. uh, Now doing that right now. So far you don't have a reel for that yet for your
No,
drone work.
I'm basically working on my portfolio for that.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to have that ready. I'm guessing midsummer, because a lot of the stuff I want to do is for the portfolio will be in the summer. I mean,
Gotcha.
I've done some small like reveals of cities, some flying backwards shots, which okay, I'm not quite as good at that one yet, but I'm working on it. And 360 views in different buildings, just practicing by knowing that somebody that isn't on Google Maps, like a church or something like that, that it would be really neat if somebody went on to Google Maps and they can just click on the church and boom, you can see inside in all directions,
Yeah.
right? So it's more practice and more getting to know the equipment and that kind of thing, pushing myself to be able to work the controls and get the decent shots and that kind of thing.
All right. So I guess that's what's next for you. More screenwriting, more acting, some drone work. Uh, that was meant to start out as a question, like, what's next for you? Yeah, but I guess that's
Well,
it.
I still love my favorite aspect, my favorite time is doing the writing. Uh, the acting was more to get over my self-consciousness in front of the camera or in front of people, which helps me express myself a little bit more with my ASL.
Mhm.
Uh, but you get that acting bug, and you start going on sets and you start feeling the energy from every single person on set, and it's addicting. It's a love, it's a great place to be.
I love being on set so much.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still love all the behind the scenes, all of that. I agree. Um, all right, then. Well, Marvin, thank you so much for writing the story, drawing all those um, things to our attention, and setting it in such a huge, expansive world. And thank you for submitting it and winning so that we're all able to share in that and read that. And thank you for this interview. Appreciate it. And can't wait to see all the new stuff that you do next.
I did want to mention one thing. It just popped
Yes.
in my mind right now. One of the things that you were talking about at the end of one of the things I can do is to put somebody into uh, the vision of a deaf person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
was
I
maybe
thought,
Angelina's idea or something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I didn't do that in this one because I was trying to get too much information at the time. But I do have one that's the love called The Love of Silence. And there is a couple scenes in there where a fairly late deafened person is in another city, gets robbed, loses her cochlear implant, and also has blurry vision. So now, all of a sudden, within the last couple of years, you went deaf. You went through the cochlear experience of getting your hearing back, which it's only a crutch. It's not actually hearing, but that's another uh, discussion entirely. Uh, but then is in another city, gets damaged, can't see, that kind of vision, and that was a real process for me to work through to be able to give that vision in that story uh, of going through that, not having lived it, right,
Yeah.
but just imagining what it would be like.
Yeah, exciting. When can we see that and read that? Is that going to be an
You
episode? Is that, oh, you already have it up
you
there.
can actually, yeah, you can read both the short version and the feature version of that on scriptrevolution.com. So if you went onto scriptrevolution.com/Marven Likness, and it'll pop up. And I think we're putting that that link to
The
my
videos.
page there as well.
All right, perfect then. Anybody watching this, go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any more closing thoughts from you, Marvin?
uh, Other than I really enjoyed Table Read Tuesdays. I enjoyed helping you out with the
Jaws.
Jaws script.
Yeah.
I mean, that was so much fun, and I'm looking forward to doing that again. If you're an actor, even if you're not, even if you just like to read things and have fun with people, it's a great thing to check out. Uh, Come along, audition for it, get into roles, have fun with these people, and it's not only good practice, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm having a blast, and it's a great group of people that are reading every week. It's awesome. All right.
Well, that's
Well,
that
then
that's a challenge to do 52 scripts in 50 in 1 year. I mean,
it
that's
is.
incredible.
So we're gonna try and do it. Some of the scripts what we plan to write, we haven't been able to find online, so we're having to switch those up. But yeah,
Uh,
and not only 52 and 52 weeks, we're gonna try and do that. And it's great. Again, appreciate all of the actors that are coming and devoting their time every single week. And we have a core team that's been very dedicated. It's amazing. But then, yeah, after this year, then we're going to do more next year, and we're going to do some more uh, TV shows. And we have other contests, kind of like the one you won, coming up for other people to get their short films or their episodes or their features to be read and get some great feedback on them. And we have other competitions, other things in the works. So
awesome.
come back, keep following along. And we can't wait for you to read more, Marvin. So, all right. Thank you. And we'll see you all next time.
Right on. Have a great
All
night.
right. Bye bye. All right.